Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on how upcoming EU regulations will impact after-sales strategies. My name is Emily, and I will be your moderator today. And we have an incredible lineup of experts with us who will guide us through these regulatory changes and what they mean for your business. Feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box at any time, and we will have a Q&A session at the end where we will try to answer as many as possible. This session is being recorded, and we will send a follow-up email with the recording afterwards. But before we jump into today's discussion, let's meet our speakers.
Thank you, Emily. So my name is Peter Hetala. I'm the founder of Inretrn, and really excited to be here today to talk about the nice combination of legislation and logistics. I think that's a good combo. So spent some 30 plus years within logistics systems and of course in e-commerce and returns, which is a really nice area to work in. So yeah, looking forward to present some insights from our side together with Beatrice and Anna. So Beatrice, go ahead.
Thank you, Peter. My name is Beatrice Miderman, and I'm an associate at MAQS and have been here with MAQS for 3 years. And I work in our retail group, both with commercial agreements, but also business setups and consumer protection, and marketing, trademarks, and other intellectual properties, and increasingly with sustainability issues. I think that's a really hot topic in the retail sector. So I'm really glad to speak with you today about this. And Anna, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Anna Domander, and I am actually brand new here in MAQS. I just joined 1 month ago, and I came from Systembolaget, where I've been working as a general counsel for many years. So this is brand new and very exciting for me. And I will be working both with the retail as Bea and also with sustainability and compliance. So that's me.
Great. Thank you, Bea and Anna. So firstly, just to talk a little about the customer expectations and then jumping into the legal part, it's really interesting. And also about some possible solutions to tackle the challenge. So from the consumer, of course, the normal things that we require is speed, transparency, and sustainability. And that is easy to say, but sometimes hard to live with and act as. But from the consumer side, there are expectations, of course, of seamless deliveries and return experiences. So it's important to have a really smooth and a good shopping experience, buying things, but also when returning the non-wanted product, the wrong sizes or what might be. Equally important that you get a good experience from the consumer side. So again, flexibility, speed, and of course, hassle-free returns is more of a standard than a new requirement. And also when it comes to the refund, which can be a challenge for retailers and e-commerce companies, expectations are high from the customers and the consumers. But if you have a global retail and a couple of warehouses, getting things back and refund the customer within 5 days might be a challenge. So again, it's from a lot of expectations from the customers and the consumers on the journey and refunds, and that puts a lot of requirements towards the retailer and the brands. And also the importance of an easy, smooth digital return process, similar to the purchasing process, is really crucial. So here's one sample from Inretrn side, how we help our customers to help the consumers to do a really smooth returns experience. We help them from left to right to return the things that doesn't fit or want to be changed, and help them to change sizes and colors in the middle of the process to win back the orders, but also allowing them to select different types of return services. And it can be driven from a sustainability perspective, that you have more green carriers or carrier services to be used, or convenience, if you want a home pickup or drop off at the PUDO or a locker. So the process is to give the consumers a hassle-free return experience, but also for the retailers the possibilities to win back potentially lost orders and customers. So this is on a global level, which means that the requirements from the consumers and the market are pretty international, so to say. And then, of course, adding the new legislation parts together with the requirements and needs from the customer. Handing over to Anna and Beatrice.
Thank you. And hopefully you can see our slides now. If you want to start, Anna?
Yes, please. So yes, we are here today to discuss some of the significant changes that are on the horizon within the European Union. You may have heard these changes referred to as the regulatory tsunami, and the aim of the European Union is basically to transform the way we operate in a sustainable way. So my colleague Bea will soon provide more details about some of these new regulations and what you can do to prepare for them. And as you listen to our presentation, keep in mind that these changes are totally manageable and it's possible to stay ahead of them. By doing so, you can turn this regulatory tsunami into a competitive advantage. That is really important to keep in mind, because if you work actively and systematically in a sustainable way, you really can strengthen your brand reputation and meet the demands of various stakeholders and also, of course, environmentally very much more conscious consumers than we've just seen a couple of years ago. Yes, so the Green Deal is basically sort of the umbrella that the European Union has named this transformation, and their strategy is basically to achieve, as you can read here, the climate neutrality by 2050 and have net zero greenhouse gas emissions by then. So they work within different sectors, covering then rules from basically everything from consumer protection and green claims, circular economic and waste management, and corporate responsibility and sustainability and governance.
Yes. So moving on to the next point of the agenda and what you can do to prepare for this upcoming legislation. It's quite a comprehensive package of legislation. And it's, as Anna said, it's important to stay ahead, and it's possible to stay ahead, but you need to have the proper knowledge about it. So starting off with the area consumer protection and green claims, there are new rules that targets both the communication but also the consumer rights. For example, it's common to have sustainability goals. Many companies communicate that they want to be climate neutral by 2030, for example. And such goals will need to be proven and verified by a third party that will verify that the company has actually put down proper resources and a proper plan to reasonably achieve these goals. You cannot just communicate it, but must also be verified that you are actually working in that direction. And the verifier's conclusions must be made available also to consumers. So it's important that the consumers have the transparency that the company will achieve, or at least have the possibilities to achieve the goals. It's also upcoming stricter requirements for green claims, and this is a very discussed legal proposal, and it's targeting buzzwords, for example, as sustainable and green and climate neutral, that are quite wide words, and the consumers cannot really know what it means. Therefore, you must only use such words if you can prove that you are sustainable at a very high level. Also, it's targeting claims that, for example, climate neutral, that are based on carbon offsets that take place outside the value chain. So EU wants to stop such communication when it's not sustainability implemented in your own value chain, but outside the value chain. Also, in the Green Claims Directive, it is proposed that companies must have even prior verification before communicating certain green claims. And that suggestion is very discussed, and right now it's a proposal for a simplified procedure on the table, because of course a prior verification for everyone before communication is very hard to, and will have very long lead times. But that is at least a suggestion. Further, own environmental labels will be forbidden. So such environmental labels or symbols that gives the impression of being an environmental label must be based on public authorities, or at least certification schemes. For example, a few months ago, Zalando was prohibited to use their own environmental label that was a leaf, I think, that they used on certain products, which gave the impression that certain of their products were more sustainable than others. So this is already prohibited, but is going the next step with the Green Claims and Directive. And also, the Right to Repair Directive will enter into force in 2026. And that will require reparation of goods. The requirements vary depending on what kind of goods it is. It's stricter requirements for electronics and such products. But also, if a company that does not have those type of products falling under the stricter requirements, they will have to extend the legal warranty by 1 year if the consumer choose a reparation and you do the reparation. So that is a bit in the area of consumer protection and green claims. And moving on to circular economy and waste management, and I think especially this segment is very relevant when speaking about post-purchase flows, etc. For example, eco-design regulation will require new ways already at the design stage. So products will need to be designed with sustainability and repairability and such in mind. For example, different thresholds for recycled material in products, and more like sustainable ways, and easy to repair, so you can repair different parts and so on. And the digital product passport is a part of the eco design regulation, but this will require that you also keep the information about the sustainability aspects of the product digital, so that consumers can follow from when purchasing the product, and that the code will follow the product, so to say, until it's waste. So consumers and other stakeholders can always scan and see the sustainability aspects of the product. And this is, of course, important when speaking of repair and such. So you always know what materials that are related to the product. Also, there is a suggestion of prohibition of destruction of unsold clothes and shoes, but probably more products will follow after that. And this will, of course, mean that circularity and taking care of returns, etc., is a need, because you cannot send clothes and shoes for destruction in Africa or some other place. So that will really need to implement such circularity. There are also upcoming requirements for packaging, and that for packaging to be recyclable, minimizing harmful substances, etc., and minimizing airspace and such, also when considering the transport. There will also be a prohibition on export of waste for disposal in countries and to parties who cannot handle it properly, which also means that we here in Europe will need to take care of our waste and not just export it somewhere else. And therefore, it's, of course, important to minimize the waste in the first place. So altogether, these suggestions will affect how companies must incorporate sustainability already from the design stage and in packaging, and all the way until the product is considered to be waste. So that is some of the central rules there, and I leave the word to you, Anna.
Great, thank you. So what is already in place and what is coming up? As you know, CSRD, short for Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, that is for some companies already in place. And we see the first couple of reports coming now, last week and this week. And we will, of course, look more into that. And this reporting directive, as well as then the EU taxonomy, is basically aiming to standardize sustainability reporting so that it'll be easier to check and compare with other companies. And companies will then need to disclose the sustainability information in their management reports, which means that financial and sustainability information will be published at the same time. And of course, the goal is to increase transparency and ensure that stakeholders have access to reliable and comparable sustainability data. And we also see then this very interesting proposal that we really don't know what's going to happen with that. I'll come to that in a second, with the omnibus package that is currently ongoing. But this proposal is basically focusing on ensuring that companies work both internally and in the whole of their supply chain in order to identify and prevent risks relating to human rights and environmental impacts. And this directive aims to hold companies accountable for their sustainability practices and, of course, ensure that they work in a positive way in the whole of the supply chain. So it will sort of enlarge the responsibility for the companies. And the Swedish government has appointed a special investigator that is currently examining how this directive should be implemented in Sweden. and is to be reported in December of this year. So, as I said, the first CSRD reports are released, and we will follow them. And at the same time, we are then awaiting the European Commission's so-called omnibus package, which basically means that they work with different directives at the same time and in a package. And they say that they will simplify and harmonize the regulatory framework related to sustainability reporting. And of course, we will also see if this work will lead to some limitations as regards these directives. And they are to report already this week or next week, I think, February 26th. So we will have to wait and see, but not that long, to see what this omnibus work will lead to.
Thank you. So I think to summarize the keys in preparation for this upcoming legislation is to first just identify what regulations that are applicable to your company, because all these different legislation in this package called the Green Deal targets different companies based on the size and annual turnover and so on. So it's important to first try to identify what will be applicable to your business, and thereafter prioritize, because this is very comprehensive. It's very much legislation, so you cannot do it all at the same time, trying to implement everything at the same time. And I think it's important to take into consideration both the timeline of the different directives and regulations, but also what is most risk considering your business and your customers and so on. And of course, engage the whole organization, because this is too much work to do, even if you have, for example, someone dedicated to working with sustainability issues. It's really targeting both economics and design and transport, logistics, and so on. So I think everyone will need to be engaged. And one really key is to ensure transparency. I think that's like a key in all legislation, because you need to know your suppliers and trying to secure that no catastrophes or sustainability issues are streamed down the supply chain. And also some of the legislation that Anna spoke about, like CSRD and CS3D, they are only targeting larger companies at this point. But I think that most companies cooperate or buy or sell products together with these large companies that are targeted. And therefore, these requirements will be required also for smaller companies by agreements and terms and conditions. So it's important to have transparency in the whole supply chain, and also to document and digitize this information, because it's a lot of information and that needs to be handled, sorted out. I mean, you cannot do this work if you're not fully digital. It's impossible. And also, I mean, some of the legislation requires digitization also, for example, the digital product passport. So therefore, that is a key, and that you can always, I mean, if you want to communicate sustainability ahead, you will, and that applies already now, but you need to be able to prove what you're communicating. So if you're communicating that a certain product has recyclable material, or that it's recycled cotton, for example, you will need to prove that all the way down in the whole supply chain, which requires documentation that is prepared when the authorities requires this information. Yes. Legal risks.
So the tougher sanctions that we see and that is somewhat proposed, they are in line with the increasing demands that we see across all legislation. And I guess you've all heard about it in relation to GDPR, where non-compliance, as you already know, can lead to substantial fines, and also have done so in the past. So the European Union is introducing these measures in order to ensure that companies take their sustainability obligations seriously. At the same time, as you know, they are, and as I just told you about with the omnibus package, we will also see if this will in fact be what enters into force, or if this also then will be maybe somewhat discussed and limited. So yes, we'll see about that. But as Bea said, it's important to bear in mind that, of course, you want to adhere to the legislation in order to avoid these then legal risks, but of course also to gain then the competitive edge by demonstrating the commitment to sustainability.
Yes. And a final point of our agenda: surf the regulatory tsunami and make it your competitive advantage. Most people don't love regulatory requirements. It's not that uplifting, but I think that you could actually surf this wave, and I think that is something we have discussed also with Inretrn a few years ago when I met Emily, that you can use new legal requirements and come up with great ideas that solves the problems that arise from the legislation, for example, like repair requirements or sustainable transportation and such. And so I think that you can leverage sustainability and use the compliance with the new regulation as a tool to differentiate your brand and, of course, attract consumers. And I think actually it will not be a question of only attracting eco-conscious consumers, but also not to lose business, because I think the stakes rise in the whole industry. And I mean, if you don't comply with the legislation, you will have a problem. So you might as well do it and enable yourself to communicate about it. Because the companies that are not, in fact, following the requirements will not be able to communicate sustainability at all, because you will need to prove that you have those sustainability aspects or work that you're doing. And also to enhance consumer trust. As we spoke about earlier, transparency is really a key with all this upcoming legislation. And I think transparency is also a key to build stronger customer relationships and loyalty. Because I don't think many consumers know about greenwashing nowadays, and therefore will not trust sustainability communication if the company doesn't do the real work. And lastly, digitization and smart solution wins, because the consumers are not interested in the nitty-gritty requirements, and this is really heavy and complicated legislation. So it requires simple packaging and also smart and simple solutions. So these regulations will not have a bad effect on the consumer experience and journey. So it's important not only to know the requirements, but also to have the simple solutions. And I think that was our last slide here.
Super. Thank you, Bea and Anna, for a good run through of the legislation. I like the do the surfing is better than being afraid and hiding.
Yeah.
So I think like from a supply chain perspective for a retailer or a brand, of course we take from factory through your suppliers, inbound in containers with big volumes, picking, packing, shipping in volumes outbound. As a company, you have good control of the information in that part of the process. But when it comes to returns, then things start to like be a bit more blurry, because customer, of course, if they return, it's clear that you get things back. But what happens for second-hand flows, from buyback flows, from charity flows, still the traceability and transparency is important. So the in-return angle into this is, of course, like how do you use, as Bea said, like the return flows as the enabler of measuring or reporting where things go, and also deciding when it's time to for the cradle for a product, when it actually becomes waste. And if it becomes waste, where should it go for the best upcycling? Because there will be different type of plans for upcycling for different type of products. So a little bit how to adapt from this angle. So from a product journey and all the touch points from a product after sales is of course connected to the DPP on the left side. Like you need to identify the product, you need to know what it's made of, and also if it has been altered, like in a repair flow. So in any flow that is post purchase, you need to like see who am I as a product. And of course, how do I feel? Am I sellable? Am I still attractive to the next customer? Am I pretty attractive to go to charity and or outlet and what it might be? So the information of the current condition and state of each product is of course important to see how many laps can a product run and be used by multiple customers. So on the right side, of course, you need a set of rules that takes care of the decisions. So if we can answer that this jacket is this DPP and unique identity has been repaired once, and the condition from that jacket is still usable, well then it's suitable, of course, to be sent into an outlet or sell to somebody else to be used for next life. But then when the product is deemed to be not usable anymore, decide the quickest, shortest way to the upcycling plant so we don't add unnecessary CO2 and transportations to the product. So that's where we like go in and chime into the flows. So from the circularity perspective, the Inretrn platform helps our customers and consumers to create the new step for a product. If it's a return, repair, buyback, secondhand product, doesn't really matter. But try to capturing a lot of information in the beginning. Of course, when the DPP is in place, that is really good information to really use for decision. And help the consumer to what to do with the product. But also in step 3, when it needs to move, decide on should it go back to warehouse or local store for full price sale because it's in mint condition, or should it go to outlet because the packaging material might be missing or what might be, or as Bea and Anna mentioned, the right to repair is also in place. So where's the nearest repair facility, repair the product and back to customer, but also logging the visibility on what has happened and update the information connected to the DPP. So the products and the consumers, they will run through this Infinity 8 in different speeds, and some products in end of life will then be taken out and redirected to upcycling plant to be new material, hopefully to be used in new products. So the yellow parts 1 to 5, of course, is the physical processes that goes on continuously. But also the 6 to number 10 is the insights of the products, the conditions, if it's still profitability in the products to be sold, or is there a CSR value to route the products to sustainability and charity organizations. So the view is like things are moving in circles, of course, and in different speed and in different conditions. So that is the last slide was the transparency and the visibility and steering of things. The other thing that Bea and Anna mentioned is, of course, that EU and the legislation will not allow a company or brand or retailer to produce a lot of products and not selling and sending them to waste. Globally, we have a problem with 30% of everything that is produced is not getting sold. So there are a lot of things going to waste, meaning that the challenge is back then to the retailer and the brand. Like, how do we buy stock enough to sell, but not to be like overstock and dead stock? That's a real challenge, because from the purchasing department perspective, you sit like, and designers, of course, you sit a year and a half before the season, for the sales season, and try to guess how many pieces will we sell of this specific product. And that's a guessing game. Nobody has the truth. And that is done for all the products sold by the company, meaning that you will always end up with overstock. If the average is 30%, then it might vary between companies, but everybody has overstock. So the other angle from Inretrn perspective is, how can we decrease the overproduction and decrease the 30% unsold stock going to waste? So sorry for a lot of details on the screen, but we are sitting with the information and the lead time. So what we help our customers now with the new module is that we can tell that tomorrow you will receive 1,000 pieces of this product. 925 of those are sellable after inspection, but we can make them available for sales already today, meaning that we allow our customers to sell on the return stock before it arrives back to the warehouse. And that is a bit of new thinking and probably one good way to reduce the risk of overstock. So the impact of doing that, instead of feeling like, third world countries with garbage, is that in short term for the retailer and brand, you will actually sell more because you have better availability in the web shop. We will feel like product gaps, size gaps in the web shop, meaning that you have a bigger availability than your physical stock in the warehouse. So that increases sales. Increasing sales, of course, decreases cost and increases the revenue, which means that there are more money to invest in to serve the legislation wave coming. In medium term, when you have good view on like what's your virtual stock, what's the sellable stock before even picking it in the warehouse, the purchasing team can make fewer repurchases, like fewer purchase orders, and that of course will like free up like tied up capital. It will decrease overstock and of course dead stock. And in the long term, for next season, instead of ordering 20,000 pieces of a product, you might order 18,000 instead, because we will make the 2,000 or 3,000 available for sales in the return process. So this is a way of thinking a little bit differently, but it's a must, because we have few tools to address the overstock and dead stock and things going to landfills and waste otherwise. So this has positive impact, of course, on the cost side, definitely on the sustainability side, but also the risk of overstock and dead stock, which is a problem for most of the companies. I would say all. So a little bit summary from the consumer side of the table. Good view on where are their products in the return and delivery process. You have clear return policies, and as Bea also said, like don't make it hard for the customer and consumer. Solve the issues, surf the wave, but make it really smooth and clear for the customer. That will enhance the customer experience and help the customer also with sustainability insights. So the customer might stand on the sustainability barricade one day with Greta Thunberg. On the next day, they might buy 3 sizes of the same product online, not knowing that that is always equal to a new return and the 2 items not sellable to other customers. So we need to like educate the consumer as well in the behavior. And on the business side for the retailers and the brands on the right side, of course, full visibility on the stock levels and flows. Optimize operations, save costs, save money to invest in these new sustainability initiatives to meet the legislation. And I think the summary, of course, is being compliance ready. So meet the regulations with data and traceability. So just to quickly, what I said in the beginning of the second session is that if you can save money, then you have resources to put in these projects to meet the legislation and also make this a good like customer experience. So here are some of our customers that we really like help them to optimize the flows. Nudegins on the left side, finding the nearest repair center for the customer, not shipping things globally to be repaired and back to customers. Nordic Nest, of course, a lot of savings. Same with Stadium. So taking control of the reverse flow. Most companies have a good control over the inbound and the outbound flows from the warehouses. Adding this, and you have good control over the circularity in the Infinity 8 with the process where products and customers smoothly runs through in different speed. So that was the presentation from our side. I don't know if you have any questions from the...
Thank you so much. Happy to see that you found the reactions as well. Good work, Peter.
Thank you.
We have a question for Anna and Bea. We just have 3 minutes, so we will have to round up. But which industries will be most impacted by these new regulations?
I mean, speaking of who will be impacted first, I would say large companies as regards due diligence and reporting regulation. But the EU is targeting textile industries and technology industries first. So, for example, the right to repair directive, it's targeting the technology products first. And as regards communication and green claims and such, I mean, everyone is targeted. Yeah. So that is no difference in industries, but textiles is first as regards product requirements.
And I think you can also add that for CSDDD, it's definitely companies with extensive supply chains, with maybe many layers of supply chains and chains that go all the way to third countries.
Yeah. Thank you. And Peter, I know that some of our customers at Inretrn are exploring virtual stock as a solution, but could you share how companies quickly then can start implementing it effectively?
Yeah, I think like first step, digitalize the returns. I think that's the key for all these type of flows, right? To repair virtual stock and like shipping things to other locations than the traditional back to warehouse.
Yeah,
I think that's the main message. Like implement digital returns, and then you open up a good portion of opportunities.
Yeah, perfect. We're running out of time, but yeah. So this will bring us to the end of today's session. We've covered some key upcoming regulations, why transparency in returns is becoming a must-have, and how businesses can turn compliance into a competitive edge. Thank you so much, everyone who's listening, and Bea, Anna, Peter. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much.
So just keep an eye out for a follow-up email, and we will share key takeaways and useful resources from today's discussion. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.